The jungle doesn't just breathe, it watches. Every rustle of leaves, every shadow that flickers at the edge of your vision, it's all part of a living, breathing consciousness. I know this now, but when I first set foot in the forgotten temple of Atslan, I was just a man blinded by greed. My name is Alistair Finch, and this is the story of how I stole the eyes of the sun god. For weeks, I'd hacked my way through a suffocating green labyrinth, guided by a tattered map and legends whispered by old-timers in dusty cantinas. They spoke of a golden idol, a sun god whose eyes were made of gems that held the light of 1,000 dawns. Treasure hunters before me had tried and vanished, swallowed by the jungle. But I was different. I was smarter, more ruthless. Or so I believed. The temple rose from the mists like a jaguar's tooth, ancient and menacing. Vines choked its stone reliefs, and the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. Inside, it was a tomb of silence. My footsteps echoed in the vast chamber as my flashlight beam danced across intricate carvings of celestial bodies and forgotten rituals. And there it was, in the center of the hall, seated on a throne of obsidian. The sun idol. It was magnificent. A solid gold effigy, twice the size of a man, its face a mask of serene, divine power. But my gaze was fixed on its eyes. Two enormous, perfectly cut jewels, one a fiery amber, the other a sapphire so deep it seemed to contain the night sky. They weren't just gems. They pulsed with an internal, living light. The legends were true. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it, the prize that would make my name immortal. The air grew cold as I approached. A primal fear, a voice in the back of my mind, screamed at me to turn back. But the glint of the jewels was a siren's call. I pulled out my climbing gear, secured my ropes, and began the ascent up the idol's golden body. My tools scraped against the metal, the sound an unholy desecration in the sacred silence. Reaching the head, I hovered before its impassive face. The jewels were even more hypnotic up close. I took out my pry bar. With a grunt of effort, I wedged it into the socket of the amber eye. The resistance was immense, as if I were prying a living organ from its socket. A low groan, like shifting tectonic plates, echoed through the temple. The stone floor trembled. I ignored it, sweat stinging my eyes, and gave one final, brutal heave. With a sickening crack, the amber jewel came loose. It was heavy, warm to the touch. I barely had time to admire it before I started on the second. The sapphire came out more easily, but the moment it was free, the light within both gems died. They became just stone and mineral, cold and lifeless in my hands. The temple plunged into an even deeper darkness, the silence now heavy and accusatory. I didn't wait around. I scrambled down, stuffed the jewels into my satchel, and ran. I ran as if the god itself was chasing me, back through the jungle, never once looking back. I made it back to my rented room in the small port town by nightfall. My body ached, but my spirit soared. I was rich beyond my wildest dreams. I bolted the door, drew the curtains, and emptied my satchel onto the rickety wooden table. The jewels lay there, dull and unimpressive under the dim light of the single bulb. I felt a pang of disappointment. Where was the fire? The celestial light? Shrugging, I attributed it to the poor lighting. I'd have them appraised in the morning. Exhausted, I fell onto the bed and into a deep, dreamless sleep. I was awoken by a sound. A soft, wet, dripping noise. Drip, drip, drip. I sat up, my senses on high alert. The room was dark, but a strange, faint light was coming from the table. My blood ran cold. The jewels were glowing again. The amber and sapphire light pulsed softly, illuminating the tabletop. But something was wrong. The shape was wrong. I crept closer. The hard, faceted surfaces of the gems were gone. They had softened, melted into two perfect, luminous orbs. They looked organic, and in the center of each orb, a dark, circular shape had formed. An iris. A pupil. They were eyes. Two large, disembodied eyes resting on my table, their gaze fixed on me. I stumbled back, a scream caught in my throat. This was impossible. A hallucination brought on by exhaustion and jungle fever. That had to be it. I squeezed my own eyes shut, rubbing them furiously, and looked again. They were still there, watching me. The pupil of the amber eye constricted slightly, as if focusing. Panic seized me. I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy book, and threw it at the table. It crashed against the wood, but the eyes remained, untouched, their stare unwavering. Their light seemed to seep into every corner of the room, casting long, dancing shadows that looked like grasping fingers. Sleep was no longer an option. I spent the rest of the night huddled in a corner, my back pressed against the wall, watching the eyes watch me. They never blinked. They just stared, their expression unreadable but filled with an ancient cosmic intelligence. They saw me, not just my physical form, but straight through me, into the black, greedy heart of my soul. The next day, I tried to get rid of them. First, I tried to put them back in the satchel, but as my hand approached, the light intensified, and a palpable wave of heat pushed my hand back. It was like trying to touch a furnace. Then, I tried to cover them with a blanket, but their light shone straight through the fabric as if it weren't there. Desperate, I decided to leave them. I packed my other belongings, flung open the door, and ran out into the street, not daring to look back. I didn't stop running until I was on a bus heading for the capital city, miles away. As the town disappeared behind me, I finally allowed myself a sigh of relief. It was over. I was free. That night, in a sterile, anonymous hotel room, I finally felt safe. I locked the door, barricaded it with a chair, and checked every corner of the room before collapsing into bed. Sleep came quickly, a black tide of pure exhaustion. But then I felt it again, a familiar, gentle warmth on my face, a soft glow filling the room. My eyes snapped open, and my world ended. They were there, not on a table but floating in the air at the foot of my bed. The amber eye and the sapphire eye, suspended in the darkness, their gaze locked onto mine. There was no escape. They had followed me. Or, more accurately, they were a part of me now. A curse I had brought upon myself. They were with me when I ate, their spectral forms hovering over my shoulder, watching every bite. They were with me when I walked through crowded streets, two invisible companions that only I could see, their stare burning into the back of my head. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I could feel their light on my eyelids. I would jolt awake to find them floating right in front of my face, their pupils dilated in the darkness, scrutinizing my every breath, my every twitch. My sanity began to fray. I talked to them, pleaded with them, screamed at them. "What do you want from me?" I would yell into an empty room. There was never an answer, only the silent, unending stare. The world around me became a blur. People's faces became indistinct, their voices a meaningless drone. The only reality was the two glowing orbs that were my constant, silent judges. There is no more running. The jungle doesn't need to chase you when you carry its curse within you. The sun god didn't need to leave its temple. It sent its eyes to be its eternal witnesses. I stole its light, and now that light will never leave me. It illuminates my every waking moment and haunts my every attempt at sleep. I am Alistair Finch, the man who is always being watched. I am a prisoner in a jail made of light. I don't know how this ends. Perhaps one day I'll simply waste away under their relentless gaze. Or perhaps, when they have seen all there is to see, they will finally claim me. I stole the eyes of a god, and now my soul is all they see. Thank you for joining me on this chilling tale. If you enjoy stories that explore the darkness that waits in forgotten places, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more content. Until next time, be careful what you seek in the shadows. You might just find it.